So welcome to this session 2 of the seminar on the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we will begin with the Mangalacharanam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you for joining again for this day 2 of the seminar. I have worked a little harder than I did on the first day. So instead of presenting the verses in Sanskrit with the translation, today I have added a few additional features, mainly lots of photographs from BBT and even elsewhere, and also tried to break down the verses in a sequential manner so that it's easier to follow. So hopefully you should be able to relish it much better. So we heard yesterday that Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. Krishna Tulya Bhagavat Vibhu Sarvashraya. Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna and is the shelter of everyone. And in fact, because it is non-different from Krishna, Bhagavatam has innumerable meanings. Nana Artha Koya. Mahaprabhu says to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya that there is no limit to Krishna, and similarly there is no limit to Srimad Bhagavatam. In fact, one who gives a receptive hearing to Srimad Bhagavatam will be struck with wonder. Loke lage chamatkara. They will be struck with wonder hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we then read Sridhar Swami's commentary on the first verse, and I listed out all the prominent Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas that have written wonderful commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam. Without these Acharyas, it would not be possible to enter into the nectar of Bhagavatam. The example is given that the cow, which is laden with milk, full of milk, she is Srimad Bhagavatam. And the Acharyas are like the calf. When the calf wants to drink milk, the cow is ready to give the milk. And we are like those individuals who are waiting for the calf to extract the milk, and whatever little foam comes on the mouth of the calf, whatever has been left for us by the Acharyas, I'm sure the Acharyas themselves can relish the Bhagavatam a lot more, a lot deeper than what they have left in terms of their commentaries. Sometimes we find that the Acharyas have restrained themselves. We find in especially the commentaries of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur or even Jiva Goswami, at places he says, oh, a lot more can be said, but I do not feel qualified to put it on paper. So there is a lot more that they are relishing, but they are only giving us a little leftover. And it's the leftover of the great Acharyas, the leftover of our own Sampradaya Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, ISKCON Acharya, founder Acharya. So whatever they have left is what we are relishing. So our humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and know, all the previous acharyas. So we went through the verse number 4, and this is a conversation between Maharaj Parikshit and Srila Shukadeva Goswami. And Maharaj Parikshit is convincing Shukadeva Goswami to speak Srimad Bhagavatam. And when he's trying to convince Shukadeva Goswami is simply listening. He is assessing. The speaker will only speak to that degree which the recipient wants to listen. The speaker will restrain himself or herself and not give more than what is required. So here we see Shukadeva Goswami is very patiently listening. Many verses Parikshit Maharaj is speaking. And the last verse we read was where Parikshit Maharaj is saying this Upagiyamanat, by the hearing of the Katha, Uttama Shloka Gunanuvadat. By hearing the Uttama Shloka Gunanuvada, one becomes completely blissful and blissfully transformed. Even the lowest of the low, even those who are materialist, even those who desire liberation, even those who wish devotional service, and even those who are perfected. Everyone benefits from the pastimes of the Lord. Now, having said this, this is a very general statement that he has made. He then wants to qualify himself as the recipient of the mercy of Shukadeva Goswami. So there is general qualification and then there is specific qualification. So what is Parikshit Maharaj's general qualification? The first line, Nivritta Tarshaihi. Tarsha, the English word thirst, comes from the Sanskrit trish, which means thirst. Nivritta means there is no thirst left. There is no material desire left. Parikshit Maharaj, when he was cursed, he had no material desires left. He had given up everything. He was simply wearing a loincloth with matted hair, nothing on his body, and with folded hands, he had approached the sages to ask one single question: what should a dying man do? So he is certainly qualified, and he wants to put this forward to Shukadeva Goswami that please don't stop. Please don't give me just 2 verses about the pastimes of the Lord, as we saw in chapter 9. Canto 9, chapter 24. We find that Shukadeva Goswami summarized all of Krishna Leela in 2 verses. And now it is, the onus is on Parikshit Maharaj to establish his adhikar, to establish his qualification. So he is given this general qualification and he is saying, look, Nivritta Tarshaihi, I am one who has no material desires left. I've given up everything, so I qualify. But then he gives even more qualification by being more specific about his own life from his father's side, from his grandparents' side, and from his mother's side as well. And then he calls upon Shukadeva Goswami's memories of the pastimes of the Lord. Sometimes, to prompt someone to speak, we have to give them some sort of an anchor. An anchor is like a hook. Once we give them the hook, they will start speaking. Like when I have a cousin and his daughter, when she came back from school, my cousin simply asked her, "So, how was Anuradha?" Anuradha is the other girl who sits next to her at school. Just that one question was enough for her to start speaking for 20, 30 minutes. She went on and on. So, the anchor for a pure devotee is the remembrance or the reminding of the pastimes of the Lord. When a pure devotee is reminded about the pastimes of the Lord, they cannot but resist. They have to speak. So this is the threefold upakrama, introduction to the 10th canto. The initial section is generic qualifications. Then Parikshit Maharaj speaks about his specific qualification. And then you will see he also prompts Shukdev Goswami to speak. So we see in the next verse, we continue from where we left off. Verse number 5, he says, Pita Maha. The first word of the verse is Pita Maha, which means my grandfather. So who's Parikshit's father? Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu's father? Arjuna. So Arjuna is the grandfather. So immediately he is calling upon Pitamaha. So Shukdev Goswami. So we have to think one thing. Everyone reads Bhagavatam, but some relish and find the love in Bhagavatam, whereas others may struggle. Like when a child is learning how to ride a bike, he needs stabilizers. Without the stabilizers, he fears falling down, or he just doesn't want to, he finds no fun in riding the bike because it's very difficult to find the balance. But one who is an expert, biker, who's participated in Tour de France or something like that, who's really biked all across Europe, he can even ride with his eyes closed. I actually knew someone who could ride with his eyes closed. So similarly, when we endeavor to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, initially we need lots of props. But eventually, we would come to a position where we can relish every single word. And any word which is spoken will have a particular meaning in the heart of the listener based on the consciousness of the listener. The higher the consciousness, the more deeper the meaning is understood. The more superficial the mood and the consciousness, to that level the Bhagavatam reveals itself. So actually Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, when commenting on the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, he ends the first verse commentary with the words Sarvam Samanjasam. Everything is perfect. Whatever understanding one gets, it's perfect. Because he says, Bhagavatam is like Mohini Murti. Mohini Murti was different for different people. For the Devatas, she was attractive goddess who was giving Amrita. But for the demons, she was an attractive lady who was to be enjoyed. And for Lord Shiva, she was even better than his own wife, Parvati. For the devotees, she was the Lord in the most mystical form. So, just like Mohini Murti caters to both the demons and the demigods, similarly, Bhagavatam will reveal itself according to the consciousness of the listener. Also, there is to be adhikar of the speaker. And when the consciousness of the speaker is the same as the consciousness of the listener, then rasa starts flowing. Then there is real pleasure, relish in Srimad Bhagavatam. So we see here, the reason I make this point is because Shukdev Goswami is the listener here in this conversation, and Parikshit Maharaj is the speaker. So we have to understand these verses at least in two ways, perhaps in many more ways, but at least in two ways I would like to present these verses. What Parikshit Maharaj was speaking and what Shukdev Goswami was hearing. They were different things. So, and this is our common experience, isn't it? So we see here, Parikshit Maharaj, to build up his connection, his adhikar, establish his adhikar, he says, Pita Maha, my grandfather. And immediately, Shukdev Goswami in his mind, he's thinking of Arjuna. Arjuna, who was Krishna Sakha. In fact, it is also said that Arjuna represented Nara of the Nara Narayana incarnation of the Lord. He had a splendor, a speck of Nara. So Arjuna was not an ordinary person. He's an eternal associate of the Lord. So Parikshit Maharaj is saying the word Pita Maha, my grandfather. How was he protected by the Lord? Just see. Pita Maha. So who is his grandfather and how is he connected? So we have to understand some lineage, some dynasties. So obviously the Supreme Personality is Krishna and Brahma is the first born from Krishna. He has no father. So he is also called as Aja, one who is not born, the unborn. And then from him, many different personalities come out. Manu comes out, and then we see other personalities come out. So if I shift this to the left, I see that from Marichi, Kashyapa, Aditi, we have Adityas, Vivaswan. And Vivaswan is the sun god. And in Vivaswan's dynasty, we have Ikshvaku. In Bhagavad Gita also, chapter 4, Ikshvaku has been mentioned. So this is the solar dynasty, sun, starting from the sun god. Another son of Brahma is Atri. On the left, you can see here. His son is Soma. Soma is moon. And moon's son is Buddha. Buddha is Mercury. And then Pururava. So this is the moon or the lunar dynasty. So Krishna appears in the lunar dynasty and so does Parikshit. So in the same dynasty you have Nahusha, you have Yayati, and yesterday we heard Yayati had 5 children, Yadu and Puru. Yadu is the oldest, Puru is the youngest. Both are very important. In the Yadus, there was a king called Satvata. And Satvata's lineage, there was a king called Vrishni and Andhaka. So Vrishni and Andhaka were brothers. And we can see that if you go further down on this side, on the left side, so from Vrishni you have Shurasena, and Shurasena had Kunti, Vasudev and Kunti were brother and sister. And there were 9 other sons and 4 other daughters. And then Kunti gets married to the Kurus. So you see here Kuru, and Kunti gets married in this lineage. She gets married to Pandu here, and she has these 5 children. So the Vrishnis, these are the Vrishnis, the Pandavas and Karna. They also, from the mother's side, they are Vrishni, but otherwise they are Kurus from the father's side. And Vasudev, he had many sons from Rohini and other queens he had. And Devaki, Krishna, Subhadra, Balram are the principal ones. So they are the Yadavas. But we see, okay, and then in the Surya dynasty, we have Maharaj Janak, Nimi Maharaj Janak, and then from there we have Sita Devi. On the other end, we have Harishchandra and this whole lineage, Khatwang Maharaj, going down to Dashrath Maharaj and Lord Ramachandra. So this orange, like the orange sun, is the solar dynasty. Blue, like the cooling rays of the moon, night moon, is the lunar dynasty. And then in the same lunar dynasty, if you see from Bharat, we have, this is not Jad Bharat, this is Bharat Maharaj. We have his descendant Kuru. So this is Puru's lineage. So we saw Yayati had 2 sons. Well, he had 5, but the oldest was Yadu, youngest was Puru. Yadu's dynasty is this on the left, what we saw. They are known as Yadavas. Puru's dynasty is known as Paurava, but not very famous as Paurava. In their dynasty was another great king called Kuru, and all the descendants of Kuru are known as Kauravas. So in that lineage was a king Shantanu. Shantanu had Bhishma from Ganga. He had Vichitravirya and Chitrangada from Matsyagandha, and from Vichitravirya, actually Vichitravirya died, and from Vyasadev, Pandu, Dhritarashtra and Vidura were conceived. And it's Pandu's sons who are the 5 Pandavas, and Arjuna's son is Abhimanyu, and Abhimanyu's son is Parikshit, and then Parikshit had 4 sons. The oldest was Janamejaya. So this is the lineage. So when Parikshit is saying Pita Maha, immediately Shukdev Goswami, who knows the entire family tree, this is Srimad Bhagavatam family tree, Parikshit Maharaj Shukdev Goswami immediately thinks about Arjuna. And having said that Pitamaha, he says Pitamaha me, my grandfather, Samare, in the great battlefield of Kurukshetra. Now Acharyas have mentioned Samara also means, Shukdev Goswami hears and understands that as Samara. Mara means to die. And Samare means where everyone was destined to die. In the battlefield of Kurukshetra, everyone, millions and millions of them were there, and they were all destined to die. But still, Arjuna did not die. Still, the Pandavas did not die. Why? Because they had the mercy of the Lord. They had the direct association and protection of the Lord. So, Parikshit Maharaj continues, Pita Mahame Samare, in the great war of Kurukshetra, my grandfather, who did he face? He faced Amaranjaihi. Amaranjaihi, one who can even conquer the demigods. Such strong and powerful warriors had gathered in Kurukshetra. Devavrata, for example, Devavrata. Devavrata is the name of Bhishma. Adi and others. Atirathaihi. When Arjuna was faced with the army of the Kurus army they were so powerful that it is said that Bhishma or Devavrata, who is mentioned here, is especially mentioned because Devavrata is not ordinary. When King Shantanu fell in love with Ganga, who is personification of the river Ganges, Ganga took a vow from Shantanu that if and when we have children, you will not ask me a question what I do with them. And Shantanu said, yeah, I agree on your condition, you just marry me. So he married her. And when the children were born, one by one, she would drown them in the Ganges. And 7 such sons were drowned. On the 8th son, Shantanu could not resist. So he stopped Ganga. As soon as he stopped Ganga, Ganga said, you broke your promise, and as a result, I will take this son with me and I will leave you. And she left. And she trained that son in the kingdom of the demigods, in the higher planets. And that son was known as Deva Vrata, who has taken the vow which even the demigods cannot take. And we will come to that vow. So that Devavrata later on was known as Bhishma. So a very strong personality. He could take a vow which even demigods cannot take. So Ganga came and returned the son to Shantanu. And then, as we can see here, Shantanu, he once was crossing over the river Yamuna, and he saw a fisher girl whose name was Matsyagandha. Matsyagandha means one who smells of fish. But she was exquisitely beautiful. So much so that he fell in love straight away. And he wanted to propose her. And when he went to the father of Matsyagandha, the father of Matsyagandha said, I can give my daughter to you on one condition, that only her sons will become the kings and the rulers of your kingdom. I know that you already have an elder son whose name is Devavrata, and Devavrata should not become the king. So Shantanu was very, very concerned. He spoke to Devavrata, and Devavrata said, Father, why are you worried about such a simple thing? He said, he went to the fisherman, father of Matsyagandha. Matsyagandha later on was known as Satyavati. Now she already had a history. Once, while she was transporting Parashar Muni on the bank of the Yamuna from one bank to the other, Parashar Muni, who was generally very absorbed in the scriptures, happened to have a glance at her, and he felt so attracted that he told her, I would like to have a son with you. And they were in the middle of the Yamuna. And at that point, there was a cloud which appeared. And instantly, this girl Matsyagandha was impregnated, and she gave birth instantly without going through the process of normal birth. Neither did Parashar Muni actually touch her, simply by his glance, because he was a great rishi or a muni. There was a personality who came up who was already a grown-up man, and that was Satyavati's son. Matsyagandha, her name became Satyavati, and her son was Vyas. And he was known as Kṛṣṇa because he was blackish, dark. Dvaipayana, because he was born on an island. He was actually born on the boat in the middle of the Yamuna, like an island, like a dvipa. So he was known as Dvaipayana. Kṛṣṇa, Dvaipayana, Vyasa. Vyas means one who cuts, who divides. So he was known as Vyas because he divided the Veda, one Veda, into 4. So that was Kṛṣṇa, Dvaipayana, Vyas. So in that sense, Vyas is a son of Satyavati already. And then Devavrata comes and says, I will take Satyavati with me. And I take a vow that I shall never, ever touch a lady or think of marriage. I'll remain a brahmachari all my life. And because of that vow, the demigods showered flowers and they said, Bhishma, Bhishma, which means what a grave vow. Grave, grave, Bhishma. So his name became Bhishma. And when Maharaj Shantanu found out the vow that he had taken, Shantanu was very sad. But at the same time, he gave a blessing to Bhishma, that I give you blessing that no one shall be able to kill you. No one in a war. Because you will be able to self-determine your death. So there is no one in the three worlds who can kill you unless you wish to die. So such a great personality. And later on in the verse, Parikshit Maharaj says, Pita Mahame. And then he says, he faced Samare in the great war of Kurukshetra. He faced so many people, especially those who could even fight with demigods. What to speak of demigods? The greatest warrior that ever lived was Parshuram, who is an incarnation of Vishnu. And there is a beautiful pastime. Parshuram, he was once meditating and a girl came to him. Her name was Amba. And she said, I need your help very desperately. And she said, let me tell you my story. She said that we are three sisters, Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika. And we are daughters of the king of Kashi. And our father once set up a Swayamvara for us where we were to nominate our own husbands. And I am already in love with the king of Magadha. So I was going to opt him as my husband. But just then, from nowhere, your disciple Bhishma was a disciple of Parashar Muni, your disciple Bhishma came and he abducted all three sisters and he fought with all the other warriors, as you can see in this picture, and he forcibly took us to his father. And his father, who didn't have a wife, not to his father, to his brother. So Satyavati had two sons, Vichitravirya and Chitrangada. Chitrangada had died because of a war with some heavenly being, some Gandharva. He had died. And Vichitravirya, who was surviving, he was looking for, a queen. So Bhishma, for his brother Vichitravirya, who was son of Satyavati, he got these three princesses. And when these three princesses reached and spoke to Vichitravirya, Amba revealed her mind. She said, I'm already committed to the king of Magadha. As soon as Vichitravirya heard that, he told Bhishma, my dear brother, please take her and send her back to the kingdom of Magad. And Bhishma took her. However, at that time, he did not know what was going to happen. When Amba reached the kingdom of Magad, the king of Magad, he said, once something is given, it is not accepted back. Since you were already in the house of Vichitravirya, I cannot accept you back. Vichitravirya had already rejected her. So Amba then said, I have no option. Bhishma, you have to marry me. Bhishma said, I have taken a vow. I cannot marry. And hence Amba went in the forest to look out for Parashar Muni. So that Parashar Muni, and this is what she was narrating to Parashar Muni, And she said, "Oh great Parashara, I would like you to fight with Bhishma, defeat him, and then force him to marry me." Parashar said, "I cannot fight with him because he's my loving disciple. I like him very much." However, Amba was insistent. And then another Rishi, he reminded Parashara that you have taken a vow that anyone who seeks your shelter, you shall not turn them back. So you cannot turn back Amba. So please help her. And Parashar agreed to fight with Bhishma. So Bhishma was so powerful, and we can see how Parikshit Maharaj is actually telling Shukdev Goswami just one line. But all these things are in the mind of Shukdev Goswami coming. So he was so powerful that for 23 days, Parashar Muni constantly fought with Bhishma, but Bhishma or Parashar, there was a tie. Nobody won. And then Bhishma prayed to the demigods. The demigods were actually scared of Bhishma. They actually already knew Bhishma because Bhishma he grew up with Ganga in the higher planets. So the demigods said, "We will teach you this one particular weapon." Two weapons actually. The first weapon is called Prashaya. Prashaya means it will, whoever whoever you attack with this weapon, that person will sleep, will be unconscious. And then we will also teach you another weapon which is called Prabodhaka, by which the person will revive. So first you throw this weapon on Parashara. He doesn't know the art of this weapon. He cannot counter it. And then you throw the next weapon, Prabodhaka, to revive him. And then you will have won. So when Amba found out that this is what Bhishma was going to do, Amba and all the other rishis, they stopped. Rishis tried to stop Parashara, Ambas tried to stop Bhishma.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Is it Parashara or Parshuram?
Oh, sorry, not Parashara, Parshuram.
Thank
you. Thank you. I was absorbed in some other things. Sorry. Thank you for correcting. So Parshuram. So Parshuram was stopped by the rishis, and Bhishma, he eagerly was about to throw the arrow. At that point, because the rishis intervened, Parshuram stopped and he told Amba, "Amba, I'm very sorry, but I cannot defeat this disciple of mine." So Amba later on does tapasya, and she is born again as a sister of Draupadi, whose name is Shikhandi. Actually, he's born a girl and later on becomes a boy. He's born Shikhandini, but later on becomes a boy, Shikhandi. Because Amba dies with a tapasya, and she prays that she wants to be born again and become the cause of death of Bhishma. So that's another pastime, so I will not touch on that. But here, relevant to the verse, Pita Mahame Samare Amaranjayaihi. Amaranjayaihi. This Devavrata, this Bhishma, who even conquered Parshuram, what to speak of ordinary, demigods. That Bhishma was in front of my grandfather. But, and not just that Bhishma, Atirathaihi, many other warriors who were known as Atirathis. So there are different categories of warriors. A Maharathi is defined in the Padma Puran as one who can single-handedly fight with 11,000 archers on horses. So one man simultaneously fighting with 11,000 archers who are on horses. That is a Maharathi. But here there were many Atirathis. So an Atirathi is one who can fight with 10,000 such Maharathis simultaneously. So can you even imagine what numbers we are talking about? So practically not defeatable, and not one person. There were many Atirathis in this war on the side of the Kauravas, and still my grandfather came out victorious because he had the mercy of the Lord, and I am the grandson of that personality. So you see, he's establishing his adhikar. Then he says that these different personalities, they were like Timingala. Timingala is, see, you may recognize what this is. This is a blue whale. It's considered to be the largest aquatic mammal on planet Earth. But a Timingala, so you see, this is a blue whale. Yeah, you can see. A Timingala is one that eats even a big whale, like this. You can see a small little human being here and how big the whale is. But Timingala fish are prehistoric fish which could eat many whales in one bite. And Parikshit Maharaj says that these warriors were like the Timingala fish, not one. Imagine many Timingala fish. Such a beautiful analogy. And he says that actually one of the acharyas says that there is another meaning of why Bhishma specifically is compared to a Timingala fish. Because a Timingala fish is so ferocious that it even eats its own species. It eats its own children, its own progeny. So a Timingala fish completely eats its own progeny, and as a result of that, there is no further progeny left. There is no further lineage. The lineage finishes. So Timingala fish became extinct, perhaps, as they call it in these days, because one of its qualities is to eat even its own children. So the comparison with Bhishma is because one of the acharyas have said, because there were two children of Maharaj Yadu. Maharaj Yayati had 5 children. The eldest was Yadu, who did not agree to exchange his youth for the old age of Yayati. But Puru, who was the youngest, he agreed. And in Puru's lineage was Bharata, in that lineage was Kuru. And Puru, although he obeyed his father, he did not perform devotional service. And as a result of that, his lineage was cursed. So actually, especially in India and also in the West, many people have these things in mind that we need children, we need lineage. We need our lineage to survive and propagate. But the real lineage is propagated only through devotional service. So this particular Acharya, he says, so Shantanu had Vichitravirya, Bhishma and Chitrangada. But if you really go to see, Vichitravirya dies and his wife Madri and Kunti, Pandudai dies and his wife Madri and Kunti, they beget children from the demigods, not from Pandu. So they are actually children of the demigods. And Pandu himself, how is he born? Vichitravirya dies prematurely, and as the result, Vyas, he begets children through Ambika and Ambalika. This was allowed in the previous age, not in Kali Yuga, that a brother who is capable and pure can beget children in the wife of his deceased brother if the family lineage is required to continue. And it only happened in the Kshatriyas. So there are many rules also in there. But in pure terms, we find that Vichitravirya's lineage, direct lineage, is not there. Bhishma, although he survived, he vowed not to marry. Chitrangada, he died without even getting married. So actually, this particular Acharya says they are all like Timingala, because Puru's lineage, Puru was not a devotee. So like Timingala, they all became extinguished. Yeah. So another view. And then it says here, Parikshit Maharaj says to Shukdev Goswami, this assembly, this huge assembly of the Kaurava Sena was like an ocean. Kaurava Sainya Sagaram. This the assembly was like an ocean. Duratyayam. It was impenetrable. You could not penetrate that ocean of army that existed. Kritva taran vatsa padam sma yat plavaha. So that particular ocean, you can see here, this looks like a huge ocean. That particular ocean was made into vatsa padam, was made into a small, vatsa means a calf, and vatsa pada means the hoof print of the calf. Imagine that there is rain that falls and gathers into the hoof print of a calf. How difficult would it be for someone to cross over this hoof print, the water in the hoof print of the calf? Let's call it a puddle at best. So, in simple words, Parikshit Maharaj said, because Krishna was on the side of my grandfather, the Kaurava Sainya Sagaram, the ocean of Kaurava army, Kritva Taran, he made it into Vatsa Padam. Krishna made the ocean into a puddle. The ocean appeared like a puddle. So we have so many challenges in our lives. And Krishna can make all these challenges into like a puddle, easy to cross. Ataran, Kritva Taran. So he was able to cross. Who was able to cross? My grandfather was able to cross this small puddle because it was so easy. But then he says, Sma yat plavaha. He was able to cross that small puddle because he had the boat. He had the boat of the lotus feet of Krishna. So some acharyas have said that if you see, yat plavaha means a boat, but a boat is said to be existing after the ocean has been made into a puddle. So how can there be a boat on the puddle? Isn't it? So they say that even to cross the puddle, the Lord did not leave Arjuna to his own means. Even to cross the water in a puddle, he came as a boat. Just see the love of the Lord. How much love does the Lord have for his devotees? You can see here the Gopas they are carrying. They are carrying each other. Yeah. You can see they are playing games and they are carrying each other. So Krishna is being carried, and Krishna is carried because he loves to be carried. Because usually, if you read Gopala Champu, if you read so many other beautiful works of the Acharyas, it is mentioned that Krishna actually he's always defeated by his devotees. All the Gopas, whichever gang he is in, he's always defeated. And then he cheats and he cries. Even his cheating is caught, then he cries. He says, no, at least once let me win. And then the other Gopas say, okay, okay, you are a crybaby, forget it. This time we will let you win. Just see, the Lord of the universe, who carries all the universes, who actually is the creator, maintainer, and the destroyer of all universes. He himself carries his devotees. So here, when Shukdev Goswami heard this verse, his heart was in bliss. And Parikshit Maharaj continued. He said, that was about my father's side, Abhimanyu's side, my grandfather Arjuna's side. So my father's lineage. Now let me tell you about my qualification from my mother's side. So he says, Drauni. Drauni means the son of Dronacharya. Drauni. So the son of Dronacharya, Ashwathama, was very, very irritated and angry. So, sorry, this is not Ashwathama, this is Bhishma. I beg your pardon, this is Bhima. Bhima, who is killing Duryodhana. Yeah? So, Bhim, he killed Duryodhan, and Dronacharya and others, they were just spectators, they could do nothing. And Dronacharya had taken a vow when Dronacharya had, I beg your pardon, Ashwathama, the son of Dronacharya, when he had seen his father being killed on the battlefield, when Dronacharya was killed on the battlefield, at that time, Ashwathama had taken a vow that I will avenge the death of my father by destroying the family lineage of the Pandavas. And then he saw his own friend, Duryodhan, being killed. So his blood was boiling. And he schemed with Kripacharya, who also survived. And Ashwathama went in the night in the cottage of the Pandavas, and the Pandavas' children were sleeping, and he thought that these are the Pandavas, and in sleep he chopped their heads off. So when it's mentioned in Bhagavatam, when Krishna found out, the Pandavas found out, Krishna advised them to go and find Ashwathama, bring him, and Draupadi said, bring him and chop his head off, and I will take bath and wash my hair with the blood from Ashwathama's head. This is a Kshatriya lady. But actually when Ashwathama was caught and brought, her heart melted. And Draupadi said, I don't want Dronacharya's wife Kripi to grieve like I am grieving for the loss of my sons. Leave him. Let go of this Ashwathama. And they shaved his head off and they let go of Ashwathama. But Ashwathama was so vengeful. You see, envy and hatred is so deep-rooted that even if somebody forgives us, unless there is purification of heart, the envy and the vengeful mentality doesn't go away. So we sometimes do some aparadha and we beg for forgiveness. And even if the Vaishnavas forgive, we are truly not forgiven until we have rectified our ways and cleansed our heart. So here, Ashwatthama, even after all this, he is throwing another weapon, Astra, Brahmastra this time, on Uttara's womb, because he knows Abhimanyu, before being killed, had already impregnated Uttara, his wife. So Uttara's son Parikshit, he didn't know the name at that time, but he knew this child will be the lineage of the Kuru Pandava dynasty. So he wanted to kill. So now Parikshit Maharaj is saying, just see my fortune and my qualification and my mother's side qualification. So he says, Drauni Astra, this son of Dronacharya. Why does he say Drauni? Acharyas explain, because immediately Shukdev Goswami is thinking, the son of Dronacharya who wanted to take revenge for the death of his father. He threw the Brahmastra, and because the Brahmastra approached Uttara, Uttara could not protect herself against Brahmastra. Brahmastra is something like a nuclear bomb. How can one human being protect themselves from a nuclear bomb? So Parikshit Maharaj said, when Brahmastra was approaching my mother's belly and I was inside the belly, my body, Viplushtam, was being burned, scorched because of the heat. It was being roasted, my body. Idam madangam, this body of mine, Shukdev Goswami, was being roasted in the womb of Uttara. So you see here, Ashwatthama is throwing the Brahmastra, and in the womb, when the Brahmastra was thrown, it was Krishna who entered inside and protected the womb. However, we may have a doubt, because it says, Parikshit Maharaj said, my body was burning. Why did Krishna not enter and stop the embryo from being affected at all? He actually let the body burn. Why? So it's beautiful. The Acharyas, and Shukdev Goswami knows this, but the Acharyas, they have explained there are two reasons. One, the Brahmastra is given by Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma is also a devotee of the Lord. He is also a devotee of Krishna. So because if the Brahmastra becomes ineffective, then the words of Lord Brahma will become ineffective, and hence for it to remain effective, Krishna let the body, physical body of the embryo burn, and then he entered and he stopped the Brahmastra from acting any further. Another reason that is given by the Acharyas is, by burning the physical body, the embryo, this personality Parikshit, had become purified of the ignorance of this world. Such beautiful explanation. And then we see here Draupadi requesting that Ashwatthama should not be killed. Yeah, and Lord Krishna is there along with the Pandavas. So then Parikshit says, I am the only Santana. Santana, I am the only progeny, I am the only child. Santana Bijam, I am the only seed giving child. I am the only one who can continue. Continue what? The lineage. Which lineage? Kuru Pandavanam. I am the only one who can continue the lineage of the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Why does he say that? Because you see, the sons of Yudhishthir, Bhim, Nakul, Sahadev, they had all been killed. Duryodhana's sons, his sister's sons, and all the other brothers, children, they were all killed. Abhimanyu was killed. Arjuna's 3 other sons were killed. The only one that remained was Parikshit. So Parikshit Maharaj is actually the only person to continue the lineage of the Pandavas. This blue box is the Pandavas. But actually, as you can see from here, the Pandavas are also connected to Shantanu Maharaj, and Shantanu is connected to Kuru. So in reality, the Pandavas are also Kauravas. But Duryodhana was so rude, he told the Pandavas, you cannot call yourself Kauravas. Only I, the prince, can call myself a Kaurava. You are Pandava, subordinate. So here Parikshit Maharaj says, I was the only child, and the Lord protected the seed, the only child who could continue the lineage of Kuru Pandavanam, the verse says. And how did the Lord protect? Jugopa Kukshim. He entered into the Kukshi, into the womb of my mother, and he protected. Gata Atta Chakro. He entered inside the womb, Atta Chakro, Atta Chakraha, and with his weapon of Chakra, he protected me. So the Acharyas have explained that the Lord entered inside, and as the Brahmastra was approaching, he used his Gada to protect and stop the Brahmastra, and he used his Chakra. His Chakra is also known as Kala Chakra. It can defeat time. His Sudarshan Chakra can defeat time. So with his Sudarshan Chakra, he stopped time. And with his Gada, he countered the Brahmastra weapon. And Parikshit Maharaj saw the Lord. He saw the Lord, and obviously the Lord reinstated the body of Parikshit, which was burnt. So all this happened simultaneously in the womb. And Parikshit saw the Lord. And because he saw the Lord, when Parikshit came out of the womb, he was constantly searching for the Lord. So in Sanskrit, the word for constantly searching is parikshanam. Pari means all around. Ikshanam means to see, to look all around. So his name became Parikshit because he is the one who is constantly searching for the Lord. So we see that Parikshit was saved in the womb. So one may wonder, why is it that Parikshit Maharaj was not saved when Shamik Rishi's son Shringi cursed Parikshit Maharaj to die in 7 days? Why did Krishna not save him then? Krishna saved him from Ashwatthama's weapon, Brahmastra. So the Acharyas have explained there are 2 reasons again. One is because the Lord wants, on the pretext of Parikshit's death, he wants to demonstrate how a pure devotee leaves this body, and he wants Parikshit to become the cause of the advent of Srimad Bhagavatam in this world. And the second reason is the Lord protected Parikshit Maharaj previously in the womb of Uttara because he was the only seed. But later on, Parikshit Maharaj had already given birth to Janmejaya. This king Janmejaya, he was, and Parikshit had other children as well. But Janmejaya was the oldest one. He was the elder child. And so there was no threat to the lineage of the Pandavas. And hence, there was no need to save Parikshit anymore. So these kind of different reasons are given by the Acharyas. So I will just turn on the light. Can you turn on the light, please? So we see here Janmejaya, who was Parikshit's son. Later on, when Parikshit Maharaj was bitten by Takshaka, the snake, and Parikshit Maharaj left this world, Janmejaya was so angry on the species of Naga, snakes, sarpas and nagas, that he actually performed a Naga Yagya. And in Naga Yagya, he called all the Nagas, and with name every single snake was called, and Swaha, they were offered into the fire. Agnaye Swaha, and the snakes were offered. So Janmejaya did that. And obviously the rishis, they stopped Janmejaya and they said, please don't do that, because you cannot kill any species, completely wipe out any species. So conservation of species was even a thought that the rishis had. So they said Nagalok cannot be emptied. So Janmejaya agreed. But actually, even some of the snakes, like Takshaka, for example, he had taken shelter of Indra, because Indra had some truce with Takshaka. So Takshaka said, let me take your shelter. As long as I'm in your shelter, they cannot call me and they cannot offer me into the fire. And Janmejaya was so eager to revenge for Parikshit Maharaj's death that he said, if you cannot call Takshaka because he is hiding in Indraloka, then you chant the mantra, Indrena Saha Takshakaya Swaha. You chant the mantra, along with Indra I offer Takshaka in this fire. And you bring Takshaka and Indra both, and you offer Indra also in the fire. So much anger. So you can see here Indra is also there. So Janmejaya was already born while Parikshit passed away. And hence the Lord did not think of intervening and protecting Parikshit's life at that point. But here Parikshit Maharaj is saying, that was my qualification, that I was protected, but also Matuhu. Why was I protected? Because my mother, Uttara, she had, when the Brahmastra was approaching her, she had by her side Yudhishthir, the father-in-law, Arjuna, the father-in-law, Bhima, the father-in-law, Nakula and Sahadev, the father-in-laws. She had 5 great personalities right next to her. But what did she do? Did she go to them? She did not. She went to Krishna, Pahi Pahi Mahayogin. She said, oh, great yogi, great personality. Pahi Pahi. Simply by one word prayer. Pahi, protect me, please protect me, my Lord. And she said, there is nobody else who can protect me. So that my mother, Matuhu Sharanam, she took complete shelter of Lord Kṛṣṇa. Gatayah, she, my mother, who had taken complete shelter of Kṛṣṇa during this difficult time. That is my lineage. So that is my adhikar, to enter into the pastime of Kṛṣṇa. So you can see Uttara is coming here to Kṛṣṇa. In some scriptures it is mentioned that Parikshit was born dead, stillborn they call it. So Kṛṣṇa later on revived Parikshit. But Bhagavatam says right in the womb Parikshit Maharaj was protected. Next verse he says, Viryani tasya khila deha bhajam. Please now narrate. I have given you my qualification. Now please narrate the pastime. So this is the third section, which means now Parikshit Maharaj through his words is trying to remind Shukdev Goswami of the pastimes of the Lord. So we'll see all so beautiful pastimes will be covered. Viryani tasya khila deha bhajam. Please describe the pastimes of the Lord who is Deha Bhajam, who is actually in Akhila, in all Deha, bodies, Bhajam, he who resides, he who enjoys sitting in the body of every living entity. Because who is the real enjoyer? The real enjoyer, Bhoktaram Yadnatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Bhagavad Gita says. So who is the real enjoyer? It's Lord Kṛṣṇa himself. So here Parikshit Maharaj is now prompting, throwing that anchor. He's saying, please narrate the pastimes of the Lord, who is Antar. He's inside as Paramatma, Bahihi. He's outside as this whole universe is his expansion. So he's outside as the great universal form. He's inside as the Paramatma. So he is the Virat Rupa. He is the Paramatma. He's inside and outside. That personality, please glorify him. Purusha Kala Rupaihi. He is the Lord who is in the form of time. We see in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, Kalosmi, I am time. Prayachataha. He is the one who awards Mrutyum, death, Utamritam, and eternal nectar or joy or eternal life. He is the one who is inside and outside. That Lord who is himself time personified. He rewards death or eternity. Maya Manushyasya. He is simply playing the role of a human being. Vadasva Vidvan. Vadasva, please speak. Vidvan, O great learned personality, please speak about this pastime of the Lord. So this is what Parikshit Maharaj is saying. Please speak about the Lord who is Paramatma and Virat Rupa and who is time. And he is the one who awards everyone death and eternal life. And he is simply in the form of a human being, but he is actually supreme. He's not got, the body made of stool and urine and blood and bile and bone and marrow and skin and flesh. These ashtadhatus are not there in his body. His body is Satchidananda, so he's Maya Manushya. He's just appearing illusory, appearing like ordinary human, but he's not. So please speak about that. This is what he's saying. Now see, please understand, Shukadeva Goswami. So this is what Parikshit is saying. He is Paramatma in everyone's heart. You can see here. In everyone's heart, he is the Paramatma. Antar Bahir. Bahir, outside, he is also Kala. He's time factor. He controls everything. But we understand that Shukadeva Goswami is actually Srimati Radharani's parrot. He is Shuka of Radharani. So when he hears this verse, he's in a different consciousness. Sometimes Shukadeva Goswami is shown like this, like a parrot. Yeah, this is Shukadeva speaking to Parikshit. Sometimes in olden days, they were drawing these kind of pictures also, showing that he is actually non-different from Shuka. So when Shukadeva Goswami hears this, he doesn't understand the verse in this manner. He understands in a very different way. He thinks Viryani, the great pastimes of the Lord, Antar, those who are his insider. What do you mean insider? His own family members, his own people. Those who are the Lord's own people, for them the Lord is Purusha. For them the Lord is a person. He acts like a person. Prayachhato amritam. And he gives them what? He rewards them bliss. So the Lord, for his own people, for his own devotees, he is the Purusha who rewards them bliss. We can see how the Lord rewarded bliss to the cows, to the gopas, to the gopis, to the deer, to everyone. So he was distributing bliss to his own people. And then Shukadeva Goswami hears the same verse and he understands it as Viryani. Parikshit is asking, please explain the pastimes of that Lord, Bahihi, who rewards those who are outside, as in those who are against him. He rewards them in the form of Kala. Kala means for the Antar, for the insiders, he rewards them in the form of his personal interaction as the supreme person. But for the outsiders, he rewards them as time, death, prayachata. He rewards them with death, mrityu. As we can see, he killed so many personalities. Hmm. So the Lord is death personified. And then Shukdev Goswami, as he has heard this verse, he shakes up and he thinks, no, 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 this is not the right meaning. And now he thinks another meaning. He says, even going deeper, he says, Viryani, Parikshit is saying, please explain the pastimes of Purusha Kala Rupaihi. Kala literally means blackish. Purusha means that beautiful person, Rupa, who has a blackish form. Please explain the pastimes of that beautiful person who has a. Actually, Srinath Goswami is actually giving this commentary. Please explain the pastimes of that Shyama Sundara, the blackish, beautiful form. And that Shyama Sundara, he has a particular way of reciprocating with his devotees. When he is with them, antar, he is in their hearts. But when he is physically with them, in their proximity, in the proximity of the devotees, he rewards them absolute bliss. And how does he reward them bliss? Does he reward only one devotee at a time? No. He is infinite. Raso vai saha. The Upanishads say the Lord is rasa himself. And he is so full of rasa that he is rasarnava. He is an ocean. So how many fish can drink from the ocean? Is there a limit? Similarly, how many devotees can simultaneously enjoy bliss in his presence? So those who are his insiders, the gopis, and Shukdev Goswami is thinking of the gopis of Vrindavan and thinking how the Lord individually, in many, many pastimes, he is with individual gopi, he is having with one gopi, she is feeding him. With another, he is cracking jokes. With yet another one, he is having a discussion. With another one, he is talking about, why she wants to take away the flute of Krishna. The gopi is taken away the flute. And yet another one, and this is probably Radharani, this one. And yet another one, she is surprising Krishna and asking him, who do you think I am? Who is this? When sometimes people meet after some time, they cover the eyes and ask. So, and there is another gopi who just wants to hear the flute of Krishna. So he's interacting with all of them. So Shukdev Goswami understood that for those whose hearts have been stolen away, the Lord, when he is present, he reciprocates by giving them bliss. But the same Lord, Purushakala Rupa Shyam Sundar, he rewards them with almost death when he is Bahihi. When the Lord is Bahihi, Bahihi means when he is outside, when he is left them, when he is left the company, then the gopis, they start looking for him. It's a beautiful Rajasthani painting. You can see the gopis are looking at the pug marks or the lotus feet marks of the Lord and trying to find where he is. They become completely morose. And the one who becomes most morose in the Vipralamba is Srimati Radharani, because she thinks constantly about the different pastimes, Dhanalila and Manalila. These are the two pastimes that she is contemplating. So we see that this simple verse, when it's heard by Shukdev Goswami, he thinks, Oh, Parikshit is saying, describe the pastimes of the Lord. Aha, he who deals differently with devotees when he is present and when he is absent, he deals with them by almost giving them death. This Lord, he is Maya Manushya. Actually, Bhagavatam says, Gudham Param Brahma Manushya Lingam. Param Brahma, Gudham. Gudham means secret. This is a great secret. That the Supreme Lord is Manushya Lingam. He appears to be like a human being. Linga means like, yeah, characteristics. So Maya Manushya, that is one meaning. But then, so that is the meaning that Parikshit is speaking. That he appears to be a human being, but he is not. So Shukdev Goswami thinks of Krishna when he appeared. He appeared as a human, but first he also appeared as a four-armed form. He appeared as a baby, appeared as a four-armed form, and then as a baby again. So actually, the Lord established that he is not just an ordinary baby in front of Vasudev and Devaki. Vasudev and Devaki were the parents in the um, kingdom of Kamsa. So Shukdev Goswami, who is the Shuka of Srimati Radharani, he then thinks of Maya Manushya as no, no, no. It does not just mean that the Lord is an like a human. This word means something more. Maya. Ma means Srimati Radharani, the mother of everyone. Ya means he who is controlled by her. Manushya means a person who is completely Srimati Radharani's, completely controlled by her. So this is what he thinks. Actually, there is another verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto. The verse says, Maya Mrugam Daita Epsitam Anvadhavat. The Lord becomes like Maya Mruga, like a toy in the hands of the gopis and Srimati Radharani. And there are so many pastimes where the Lord is actually serving so eagerly Srimati Radharani. You can see here, this is near Kusum Sarovar. Actually, um, this deities are there. Ban Biharini deities are right next to the temple. The temple is right next to Kusum Sarovar. And it's managed by one of our ISKCON devotees from Scotland, who is a Brajvasi now. So in this particular pastime, Srimati Radharani is served by the Lord. He collects flowers for her and he puts the flowers in Radharani's braid. And Radharani she accepts that service and pretends to as if not really want it. But actually in the mirror, if you see, she is constantly gazing at the face of the Lord. And many such pastimes. So that is on the Madhurya platform. On the Vatsalya platform, the Lord also serves his devotees. How does he serve his devotee? When Nand Maharaj is ready to go for his conference in the morning at 11:20 a.m., he goes for a conference with some of the elder Gopas. As he is going for the conference, little Krishna, he knows Baba is going, he will need his sandals, and Krishna can't lift the sandals, both the sandals, with his little hands. So he uses his intelligence. Of course, these all sound like ordinary child, but of course he is the Supreme Lord. But Yashoda Maiya says, look, our Lala is so intelligent. He is now learned how to carry your sandals on his head, Nanda Baba. And Nanda Baba becomes so pleased. In fact, he is so attached to Nanda. You see, these paintings, Srila Prabhupada said, are the windows to the spiritual world. There are some small things which we may not notice. one day, we can speak about just these beautiful paintings. So one small thing we will not notice in this painting is there is a little ball here. What is the intention of having the ball here? Yashoda Maya is saying, my Lala Krishna is so naughty and so attached to play. But when he sees you, Nanda Baba, he even gives up his play to serve you by carrying your sandals. And on the Sakhya platform, he even dances for the pleasure of the Gopas. The Gopas say, all right, we are going to clap, we are going to play the bugle, and Balram, you become Nataraj. You can see he's like Nataraj. Actually, Lord Shiva, he comes from Shankarshana. He's an expansion of Shankarshana. Shankarshana is expansion of Balarama. So it's very appropriate that he assumes the form of Nataraj. And they say, come on, Krishna, you play the flute. And you play in such a way that as if the entire universe is collapsing. And when Krishna actually plays the flute, the demigods become afraid that the universe is going to fall apart. Because the Lord is, although he's playing, but his flute generates such energy that as if Nataraj is going to dance so he is controlled by his sakhas. So Shukadeva Goswami, when he reads this, when he hears this verse, Maya Manushya, he thinks it is the Lord who is controlled by his devotees. And then Vadasva means please speak, please speak. But Shukadeva Goswami, so this is what Parikshit means to ask, Vadasva, please speak. It is Atmanepadi, Vad Dhatu. It's a verb, imperative mood, second person singular, which means you, my dear sir, please speak. But to the mind of Shukadeva Goswami, he splits these words and he thinks of it as Vada, speak, Swa. Swa means oh, Swa means own. Oh, personality who are the very own of Srimati Radharani. Please speak. Vidvan, you are a learned person. Vidvan, means learned person. But what is learning? What is Vidya? So Bhagavatam in the 4th canto says, Sa Vidya tan materyaya. That is Vidya, which brings about Krishna consciousness. That is real education. That is real understanding. So when Shukadeva Goswami is being addressed here as learned, he's not being addressed here as learned in, materially learned or even learned in the scriptures from a analytical point of view and a Sanskrit point of view and a, somebody who's really learned and memorized all the shlokas. No, he's saying you have so much bhakti. Your mati is in Krishna. Krishna mati. Your mati is in Krishna. So you are the perfect person to speak. So please speak. We will stop here because the time is, there is one more, maybe I'll go on for one more minute. And then Shukadeva Goswami also thinks, this is the third thing that he thinks. He thinks the Lord is so merciful that he can change anything and do anything and reward anything to anyone. Only he can do this. How? So Shukadeva Goswami thinks that prayachhato mrityum, the Lord can award or give reward of mrityu, death. He can award death to someone who is not or who cannot die. He can kill someone who cannot die, and he can award eternity to someone who deserves to be rotting again and again and dying again and again in hell. For example, Bhishma, who cannot die, was awarded Amrita, eternity. I beg your pardon. Bhishma, who cannot die, was awarded death. the Lord ensured that he died. And so Bhishma died, and Kamsa, who did nothing good except to be envious of Krishna, he had nothing else. Yeah. So he deserves not to attain supreme destination. The Lord gave him supreme destination. So Shukdev Goswami actually feels very, his hair is standing on end. He's feeling extremely joyful in his heart that this Lord, there is no limit to his mercy. For his devotee, he can kill one who cannot be killed, and he can reward eternity by killing them. He can reward eternity to one who does not deserve it. So the Lord is for him. It's possible to do anything. I think the time is up. 4 minutes. I beg for your apology for going over time by a few minutes, and we will continue from this verse tomorrow. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Hare Krishna. So thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you particularly for your hard work. There are so many beautiful pictures over there. And wonderfully, you connected to so many stories from Srimad Bhagavatam. It was greatly relished. Thank you very much. And we look forward to your session tomorrow at 1 p.m. So His Grace Kartik Chandra Prabhu ki jai. If anybody has any questions or any comments, you can unmute and ask Prabhuji. There was one request by one of the devotees was that would it be possible to share the genealogy table that you showed? Is it available on website or